Geiger's gonna be burnt if we don't start soon.
I know.
He's already got a base, so he's in good
I got a pretty good base, yeah.
It's working! It's working! Welcome into the Bro Force Squad podcast. This is episode 78, and we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking movies. This is a very special episode. We are revisiting, I should say, Star Wars Episode 1, 20 years later. And I'm your host, Jeff Hornacek. Let's go around and meet the fellow bros in the Jedi Council. We got a full group today. First, we go into the lab to the mad scientist, Brian Banner. Banner, you're the most qualified of anyone on the podcast, so I'll just come up straight out with it. What the fuck is a midichlorian?
So it's like, just regular chlorians, but it's a middle one.
That's still better a description than we got in that.
Not necessarily an evil version.
That actually is more detail than George Lucas ever goes into. And we are honored to have our enforcer in the paint, Matt Geiger, on the pod. Geiger, I heard that back in the day, you and Sebulba used to get in bar fights together. How come you guys aren't friends anymore?
Yeah, man, we went to THS, Tatooine High School, and we were fucking boys. And we went into business together. We were going to split everything right down the fucking middle. Started in pod racing. And then every time he would fucking destroy a pod, he'd sell it for parts and not give it to me. So then we kind of made up, and then we were going to get basically a whorehouse. And pretty much the only half he got was money. The half I got was STDs. So after that, we kind of just, not like a huge falling out, but yeah, if he fucking died, I wouldn't care.
What was the mascot of Tatooine High?
Sand.
Go Sand!
Yeah.
Oh, is that why Anakin didn't like sand? He was at the right
Yeah.
high school. He's like, I don't like
he was a band geek in high school, so
He went to
he didn't really
Tachi.
like the jocks, and yeah, he blamed the high school, but I just told him, that you're going to get that anywhere. It's clicky. The world is clicky. What are you going to do about it?
Their rival was Tachi High School, and their mascot was the Power Converters.
Our converters, yeah.
Picture Sebulba with like a Letterman's jacket from Tatooine High School.
THS.
Fucking walking around.
Were you a Sand? Yeah, man. 98. Oh, shit.
Holy shit.
77.
Wow. And last, we go to our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli. Now, Cycli, how within her rights was Queen Amidala to not allow a committee to go to Naboo to check on the validity of her allegations against the Trade Federation? I mean, seriously.
You clearly just don't understand the concept. I can't even explain it to you because a simple-minded bullshit like you, only George Lucas and Queen Amidala and someone like myself can understand why she had to go herself. There's no other explanation.
You sound like all the people in the fucking room with George Lucas when he wrote the movie. That's how
I was like, oh, yeah. That definitely makes sense, George.
Thank you. I really appreciate the feedback, guys. Jar Jar's the
Definitely
key.
doesn't get sarcasm.
All right, if you have not listened to our show before, or if you have, you know that we start every episode off with the most important thing in any bro's life, and that is chess day. And if you couldn't tell from the title of the episode or the intros, 2019 marks actually almost to the day. I think May 19th is when it came out. The 20-year anniversary of the first Star Wars movie that our generation got to see debut in theaters. That is Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And shameless plug, check out our movie commentaries on all the Star Wars movies, but especially the prequels, because I think this podcast are huge apologists of those movies, probably because we're fucking massive fans of both the Sith and Palpatine. Like, just can't be denied. So with it having been 2 decades since Episode 1 came out, we wanted to revisit it and see, number one, how certain elements of it have held up over the years, and two, if we could defend or argue against some of the most commonly talked about issues that people have with the film. So we won't do this like any of our normal reviews, but we'll just go through a couple of the main things that people have gone back and revisited over the course of the past 2 decades that we want to discuss, and we'll just pass each topic around like death sticks. And I know that's a reference from Episode 2, but we love to talk about death sticks on this pod.
I think they were still relevant in Episode 1.
They were definitely still a problem for a lot of people. Hey, if you think death sticks aren't a problem on the streets of Coruscant, go down to the fucking slums, You're just in denial. All right, so first thing I wanted to talk about is just kind of the then versus now. So how much did you like the film when it was released? like when you first saw it in theaters versus how much do you like it now? Cycly, we will go to you first, since this came out about a month before your birthday, actually, in '99.
Yeah, I was 12 years old, and I remember. Well, obviously, the level of excitement was unlike anything I had ever seen. I hadn't discovered Harry Potter yet. I really didn't know any kind of fandom other than what Star Wars was. And as a 12-year-old, that's exactly the prime state on getting obsessed with something. So I remember the feeling I had going to that movie. And as a 12-year-old, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I think you guys do. I fucking loved every minute of it. I loved Jar Jar. I loved the pod racing. I loved the dual lightsabers. The ending.
Did you get a toy dual lightsaber from your
I
aunt?
did. I had a dual lightsaber. Yeah. And the thing is, I remember, though, because, when you're 12, you're pretty aware of what's being talked about. I remember hearing the negativity on the news. Like, I remember people talking about how bad Jar Jar was as a character, how poorly written the movie was, how boring it was, the trade, making it a trade dispute. That was kind of odd. But as a 12-year-old, you're not watching for that. I loved every moment of it. So I remember thinking it then, I thought the critics were crazy. How could you hate Jar Jar? Then I think a few years went by and I totally finally started understanding some of the hate for the movie. But what's funny is when you ask for the now, I've come fully back around. I fucking love Phantom Menace. I went through a
same way.
And now it's one of my favorites. And I will understand how flawed the movie is. I will always defend it with my heart, though. Like, it's a stupid-ass film that I love, like one of my own.
I don't even like it ironically. I just actually fucking like it.
Dude, I will put it on all day.
Yeah, it's so entertaining. Geiger, we'll go to you. Thoughts when you saw it as a kid, as young Geiger, and then now? How has it aged? Like a fine wine or like a Smirnoff Ice?
So as a little Geiger, I'll have to agree with the little Cycly that I think this was the most anticipated movie of my youth, besides possibly Batman Forever. I was pretty fucking stoked about that one too. And he spoke about the kind of his version about going to the theater and how pumped he was. I'm going to talk about before that. The Pizza Hut game. Do you guys remember this? They had like a Pizza Hut game around this fucking movie.
Yep.
And I don't know if they do this anymore. I guess, Banner, your daughter's probably too young to really know if she's into this kind of stuff. But back when we were kids, you see, people did really fucking cool stuff around marketing. McDonald's always had Batman before the Batman movies come out, and Pizza Hut had the Star Wars movies. It was almost like a Monopoly game where you had to collect them all, and then you would get like free tickets and Star Wars merch, and it got you totally fucking jacked for the movie. And also, it introduced you to all the characters before you even saw the movie, so you already kind of knew about them because on the back it would kind of explain what the characters were and where it came from.
Space Jam had at McDonald's, you could put together like the starting 5 of the Monstars and the Toon Squad, I think, from Happy Meal toys.
And Batman Forever had the mugs.
Still have one.
Yeah, that was fucking badass. You go through there and get a different mug, like Jim Carrey and Two-Face. Okay, so to the now, I like this movie way better than when I was a kid because this is in the same category for me as fucking Point Break, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. The story is good. The action scenes are good. The plot is fine. Just the dialogue is just fucking terrible, but it's so bad it's good. So every time I watch this, I'm thoroughly enjoyed. I can fucking eat Chinese food and drink a 6-pack to this movie probably once a month. So in Matt Geiger's book, that makes it a good fucking movie. So I'm perfectly fine with this movie. I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10 because Point Break's 10 out of 10.
Holy shit. It definitely has the best dialogue of all 3 prequel films. Call that.
I feel like a tear is just coming out of George Lucas.
Banner, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that especially with our generation, I mean, we're all late 20s, early 30s. We were that prime generation, like, hey, we're going to reinvigorate the Star Wars franchise, right? So we already knew what Star Wars was going into this. We, grew up watching the original 3 on VHS, and this was the first Star Wars movie I saw in big theaters. I mean, I went back when they re-released the originals, but that doesn't count because I'd already seen the movies. This was the first original movie that I saw in theaters, and I just remember, like, the first time that you sit there and you're like, I don't have the crawl memorized yet, and you just hear the da-da, and then the crawl starts to come through. Like, I just got chills when I just did that. I remember hearing that for the very first time. And that is something that will always be with me. Just like, our parents or like Uncle Banner talks about it when he first saw A New Hope in theaters. Like, I will always remember that for the rest of my life. And then, yes, I'm like you guys, man. I love the pod racing. I thought Jar Jar was fucking hilarious. All the Trade Federation stuff went so far over my fucking head. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. But then you throw double lightsabers and two guys fighting one Sith. You fucking kidding me? That shit blew my mind.
And I didn't realize how racist caricatures the Trade Federation were.
Yeah, I hadn't. Yeah, like I didn't.
It was different time, Jeff. Different time.
All of that went so far over my head, like I didn't understand. And like Cycly, like I didn't understand why people were saying it's so bad. So then around the 10-year mark, Jeff, we were living together and we went and we popped the DVD in and we watched it. And I was like, wow, that's when that realization for me came. This is a bad movie. And I kind of it all hit me at once. And again, Cycly, I'm like you, another 10 years go by. I just enjoy it for what it is. The dialogue's bad. That this world got way, way more complicated, way, way fast. And we didn't really understand why we needed all this Trade Federation bullshit and mumbo jumbo. But if you just have fun with it and go, hey, look, we have this little shitty actor that is going to eventually be Qui-Gon. You have Natalie Portman mailing it in for the first time. And then you have Liam Neeson that got out of this alive, and Ewan McGregor who's always down to play ball, and double lightsabers and Duel of the Fates. And the pod racing scene arguably is the funnest. I mean, it's a top 5 funnest scene in any action movie, right?
Yeah. Don't get too far ahead of us because I do want to talk about that.
Okay.
Well, he hasn't read the show notes.
Yeah, I didn't read the show notes.
I pretty much will echo what Cycly said. One question I have, because I think this is the case, but was this the first ever prequel? Like, was there anything before this that was like came out sequentially after the other movies, but was actually taken?
Temple of Doom came out.
What Indiana Jones?
Yeah, Temple of Doom is technically a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
But I thought only part of it takes place before Raiders.
I don't think so, but maybe.
I'm sure there were some, but this had to be the biggest one ever.
This is definitely the most talked about and the most hyped, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so half of Godfather Part 2 is a prequel, and the other half is sequel.
Either way.
It had the coolest story ever because it's the greatest villain we've ever seen.
Oh,
and we get to see how he became that.
So underutilized.
They kind of fucked it up, but before we're talking about whenever this movie first came out, everyone's like, dude, I can't wait to see, him as a sweet kid, and like, where did this all go wrong?
And I don't think they fucked it up in this movie. They fucked it up in the other two.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely.
I actually kind of dug his arc in this movie.
Yeah, and Jake Lloyd is listening to us from his prison cell. Like, thank you guys. God, that time I get some fucking credit. All right, next one. This is a quick one, but a lot of people complain. Like, one of the main complaints about the plot is how centric it is on, like, fucking intergalactic trading, and is really boring for kids. So, do you guys think that's the case, or do you just look back and think of the action set pieces? Because I'll be honest, when I go back and rewatch it, there's really only like a slight part at the beginning of the second act, like when the Trade Federation comes to Naboo and that old fucking guy who gets captured who's like, a communications disruption can mean only one thing, invasion, which means
why is it only
right? He's never had Time Warner fucking
what if
cable.
the antenna went out?
Yeah, but to me that's the only time it really drags, because even in the beginning when the Trade Federation's talking, it's the droidicas fighting the Jedi. So that argument doesn't really work for me. Like I don't really agree with that. Banner, how about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with your statement. Growing up when I saw it, I honestly had no idea that there was even like a Trade Federation talk and problem that was the main like conflict in the movie. I honestly just thought it was like, oh, instead of stormtroopers, it's droids and it's a lot of Jedi instead of just a Jedi. Okay, I can dig this. Cool. Give me more.
And I dug the droids too. Geiger, how about you? Did the Trade Federation talk bore you to fucking sleep, or was it not even a big deal?
Yeah, as a bro that couldn't exactly tell you gun to my head how the Electoral College works and has never voted before in his life, It went way over my head. It still did. That was the one thing whenever I revisited it, like in my 20s, I'm like, wow, this is like what this whole plot's about. And I don't remember any of this from when I was like,
It was
10
like
or
watching
11
a whole new
watching this.
movie.
It was kind of cool though, because I'm like, wow, this is really political, which is a part of Star Wars that I do think is really cool. How, you know, politics is king, and even though the Jedi
By the way, if
are
you can hear that siren,
Geiger,
Matt is
run.
potting from the pool. Yeah.
yeah, they're coming to get me. But I don't mind it that much, even though I still don't get it, because I still don't know really how our judicial system works, and I've never voted, but I like to watch CNN just to watch people bitch at each other. So.
All right. Well, Cycling, as a political science major, literally in your undergrad, how did the
I
galactic?
just love that he literally just admitted he doesn't know the electoral college and the judicial system. It's a
Say
beautiful
that.
sight.
He probably understands more about how the Trade Federation tax trade routes than the.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm going to kind of echo, and maybe this is why. So Attack of the Clones is my least favorite, at least of the prequels, until The Last Jedi came around. But I think age has so much to do with your question, right? I think all of us being 11, 12, maybe 13 years old when we saw this movie allowed us to enjoy it for the surface reasons we do enjoy it. I think if we had been slightly older, we wouldn't have had this nostalgia love of Phantom Menace, because I don't have that with Attack of the Clones. I remember being 15 years old seeing Attack of the Clones and being like, I understood this is a bad movie. Where a 12-year-old might have enjoyed Attack of the Clones for everything we got out of it. So the Trade Federation stuff, as a 12-year-old, didn't bother me, didn't bore me, because it just went over my head. That's not why I liked the movie. That's not why I enjoyed the movie or what I took away from the movie. But if I had been 15 or older when this movie came out, I would probably have a different perspective, because I think all four of our love of this movie is nostalgia-based, not necessarily substance-based. Now, we can argue and defend it. I will. But I think we saw it at the perfect time.
Yeah, the Trade Federation stuff is really just how George Lucas gets us from action set piece to action set piece. And speaking of action set pieces, so there are a couple badass ones in this movie that we have to talk about. The pod racing scene, Duel of the Fates playing over those lightsaber battles, and then obviously pretty much the whole third act, which is three-tiered. It's that lightsaber battle, I don't want to call it a space battle, but the bullshit with Anakin, and then the Gungans versus the droids. So we'll go reverse order. Cycling, of those three action set pieces, which one is your favorite, and how badass are those scenes to you?
It had to be Duel of the Fates for me. I mean, one, as a kid, I'd seen all the original Star Wars movies, and, you know, even though this is an argument you'll get on with Star Wars nerds online about the difference between what the fight scenes were in the original Star Wars movies versus the fight scenes we got in the prequels, how extravagant it was.
But I don't get that. Like, did they not want cooler fight scenes?
Right, they don't want it. The purists don't want it. They say Jedi don't need to fight like that because they're so skilled with the Force. I mean, that's a whole different nerd conversation. But again, as a kid, when you see not one but two adult lightsaber sword, 2-on-1, like Banner mentioned, and then the Duel of the Fates still to this day is maybe one of the greatest compositions to a fight scene action movie ever. I remember I begged my dad to go, this is probably the first time I ever did this, to go buy the soundtrack. I asked my dad after the movie to go buy the soundtrack of the movie just so I could put on Duel of the Fates and get out my dual lightsaber and fight in my bedroom.
That was totally my first time too.
It just was like, so for me, like, as much as I love pod racing, that was just epic. And Darth Maul was the perfect victim, so that's got to be my favorite part, my favorite scene there.
Geiger, how about you?
Keeping with our first question, when I was 10 going to this movie, I'd have to say the pod racing scene. But now as an adult Geiger, I'd have to say Duel of the Fates. Duel of the Fates for lightsaber battles, whenever you watch the original where Vader's taking on Luke, it's like watching Hulk Hogan face Andre the Giant. It's cool, it's nostalgia, but whenever you watch it, you're like, fuck, this is boring, because I'm used to like watching the Young Bucks wrestler or something. It's so athletic. Duel of the Fates, like, if you ever watch the behind the scenes on that, it's fucking phenomenal how they, you know, basically choreograph that whole fight. And then Banner will probably talk on the score here in a little bit. But that, I think, is the best lightsaber fight ever in Star Wars, right?
Oh,
Am
not
I
even
crazy
close.
thinking that?
Yeah, I think so.
Not even fucking close.
And this movie gets so much shit. Like, you know, whenever you talk to a 50-year-old at the bar, you're like, your generation ruined Star Wars. I'm like, cool, what's a better lightsaber scene than Duel of the Fates then? It's like the best fucking one. And everyone would tell you their favorite part about Star Wars mostly is Jedi and lightsabers and shit. So I think they did a fantastic job with that. And the story they built before it was definitely viable because Darth Maul, one, didn't talk, so he couldn't have sounded like an idiot. And I thought Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon for this movie and the dialogue they were given did a pretty good job. So I bought the story going into it as well.
And that Gungan fight for me, which like obviously happens like at the same time as the space battle in Duel of the Fates, they made it like too campy and funny, but for some reason I still kind of like it. I love their technology. The Gungan technology, I think, is what I dug about it. Banner, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a kid, I would have to agree. It's probably the pod racing scene, but the Gungan fight scene as a kid got me. It was cool because you have Jar Jar, which, sue me, as a kid, I thought he was funny. Like, give me a fucking break. I was 11. And then, like you said, the little, like, jelly-filled, like, water balloons that they throw and electrocute them, like, that shit was fun.
Listen to Boomer!
Yeah.
That's what the one guy says. Listen to Boomer!
As an adult and even a teenager going back and rewatching it, it's Duel of the Fates. Again, you watch it, they build it up. When Qui-Gon dies, I probably feel that more than when any other Jedi has died or been hit with a lightsaber ever in any of the movies, because you see the emotion on Obi-Wan's face, and then he just goes in there like a fucking bat out of hell and slices him in half. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's awesome. And then you parlay that with the best score in movie cinema history. The score always adds to the fight scene. That fight scene is great on its own. You can watch that shit on mute and be like, yeah, this is awesome. Throw that score in there. Get the fuck out of here. If you don't like that, then you're not a human being. You're
how
fucking
fucking
robot.
cool is it how Darth Maul kills Qui-Gon with like hitting him in the head and then stabbing him?
Oh, yeah, the fucking headbutt. It's great.
That was sick. All right, one we have to talk about, Jar Jar. So this is probably like the worst, like consensus, the worst part of the movie, and clearly he was like basically written out of the next two. Like George Lucas heard the feedback, got the death threat sent to his house, and was like, all right, we'll do a little bit less Jar Jar then. So let's just go around and say, what are your thoughts on Jar Jar? I guess we have to do it like first time you saw it versus now. Matt, we'll start with you. Jar Jar Binks.
I still believe he was Darth Plagueis. I still believe that. I think that he was the key. I think that George Lucas is a fucking genius, but since he went back on his biggest fucking turn ever, that's why these movies suck. If he would have just went through that, I think he would have pissed people off for the second one. And the third one, I think a lot of people would have left the movie pissed off and then kind of thought, dude, I just got fucking duped for like 8 years, and that is fucking brilliant. I just think he didn't stick to his guns. But originally, he had that idea. I will take that to the grave with me. And I think that Jar Jar played a bigger role, and he was just supposed to be a bumbling idiot to basically throw you off the scent and maybe not hate him as much as people did. But then he was supposed to be the biggest villain at the end. I think Anakin was supposed to fight him at the end, basically.
I'm with you. When you first told me to watch that YouTube video about the Jar Jar theory, I was like, this is so fucking dumb. And then by the end of it, I'm like, sold.
Yep.
Cycling.
I believe it now.
Yeah, I'm 100% on that train. Yeah, I was gonna say, if he didn't say that, if you have a little bit of time, you can go down this rabbit hole of who Jar Jar Binks is rumored to be, and all the hints and everything at it. I will go to my grave as well, believing that. Even if George Lucas never intended, I, in my heart, believe that was the point, and I love it so much I don't care any other way. But that's obviously not what I thought when I was 12 years old. I thought just Jar Jar was funny. I really did. And I remember reading about like how, there was some like racist stereotypes going on with his character too. And again, not understanding it because I'm fucking 12 years old and I didn't get it. And then again,
well, what race is gonna stand up and be like, "That's us"?
Yeah.
Wait a second.
No, right?
It's just being like, a couple years later, yeah, he's a stupid character, but I think I started leaning on how much I loved him once I did go down that rabbit hole about him being the Plagueis or a Sith Lord, because just if he had gone for it, talk about the turn of the century, no one would have seen something like that coming. So Jar Jar, the way they ended up with him, stupid, in all honesty. Like, what they ended up doing, and you look back on how they wrote it, absolutely horribly written. But I think there was a different purpose for him.
If Lucas only would have had the balls to fucking do that and just tell the haters to suck his dick because he knew what he was doing. Banner.
Yeah, when I saw this as a kid, I loved him. I thought he was funny. I thought his antics were, I mean, they were right up my alley. And I think Jar Jar did exactly what he was supposed to do to our generation. He made us laugh and he made us want more Star Wars. As an adult, I mean, honestly, it doesn't tip the needle one way or the other. Is he annoying? Sure. Is it bad? Sure. Does he break the movie or even make me dislike the movie at all? No, not at all. Like, it's a fucking character in the movie that I can honestly look past because there's so much other stuff about the movie that I love. And I still go back to this. And I've had shouting arguments with Uncle Banner about this because this was the first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters. And you will never be able to take that away from me. And our generation is going to defend this movie to the fucking death because of that. If it would have been, I guarantee you, if Last Jedi came out 20 years ago when we were kids, we would fucking love it.
I don't know about that.
I think we would have. I think we would have. I
was young, not fucking stupid.
I think we would have liked it. I honestly do, because the way that we feel about Last Jedi is the exact same way.
Honestly pisses me off, Banner.
I know, as it should. Look, I bring controversy to this fucking pod.
Like, I'm really pissed right now. I was having a good day, but I'm fucking pissed that you said that. Keep going.
Again, back to the original statement. I hated Jar Jar. Now, like, it is whatever. He is what it is.
One thing when I rewatch it, he's really like heavily featured in the first act. After that, he's just like a super ancillary character. So if you can survive through that, then you'll be all right. Okay, one more, and then we'll rank this in terms of our Star Wars movies. And Geiger, I know this is one you definitely want to talk about. So Darth Maul, played by Ray Park, initially Benicio del Toro was in the role. Then he had to drop out. I believe he was doing The Wolfman at the time, and he couldn't get to be on set. So the dialogue and basically the role of the character of Maul was, depreciated a lot, decreased. Now, should Darth Maul have had a bigger part or returned for more movies, or do we think that this just needed to focus on Anakin and his sort of indoctrination into the Jedi Order? Geiger, I will give you the floor first.
I think that I'm not sure if he should have been cut in two at the end of Phantom Menace or just kind of went away. I don't want to see him in the second one, even though he'd make that movie a lot better because it's probably the worst Star Wars movie ever, besides the Jedi shit fucking movie that Banner brought up. But I would have liked to seen him come for the third movie, Revenge of the Sith. I mean, you got to have an Anakin versus Maul movie, basically for Anakin just taking over the fucking mantle. And I would have liked for Emperor Palpatine to basically be like, hey, you two fight in front of me. The winner gets to be my apprentice. And I think that would have been a better turn for Anakin, basically going full to the dark side, because it wouldn't have been more of him killing for love or, something to do with his mother or something like that. It would have been just him killing for glory.
For bloodlust.
Yeah, for bloodlust, which is more Sith than fucking anything. So I think we got robbed from that scene from Revenge of the Sith. The second one, I just don't know where he'd fit, because it makes sense that since he doesn't have an apprentice, he's basically grooming Anakin to do it. So that's the only problem. I'd have to maybe sit down and actually come up with more of a script than that. But we definitely got cheated out of a scene where Anakin fights Maul, for sure.
I don't know what the fuck is happening behind you, but I'm assuming that all those people would agree.
Lots of murders.
Yeah, lots of murders. All right.
I'm murdering.
Who wants Darth Maul next?
I'll take it.
Geiger, can you mute your headphones or something so we don't...
I'm going inside.
Okay.
All right, perfect.
Balls support.
So I don't think they should have changed anything with what they did with Maul. Would Benicio del Toro have been awesome in that role with more speaking lines, blah, blah, blah? Of course. That would have been fucking awesome. As soon as he dropped out, I think that they did exactly what they needed to, and I just like what they did. They ended him. It is what it is, but they didn't, because if you watch Clone Wars and then again Rebels later on, they went back and I don't want to say they reconciled some of that, but they gave us more of an arc with Darth Maul. And if you guys haven't seen that, you guys should check it out, because that is really where his story and his arc should be, I think, is in those shows where they actually had a lot more time to develop and talk about his motivations and things like that. So what he was in the Phantom Menace, I love, don't want it changed, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Now, Cycling, before I toss it to you, you and I believe, share this belief about Boba Fett, that the only reason Boba Fett is such a huge fan favorite is because we didn't really get any of him in the movies, right? So it's like people can make him out to be this character that he really isn't because he's not that interesting. I kind of tend to think the same thing with Maul, like less is more with him, and he probably would have gotten maybe overexposed if he was in more movies. But what do you think?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think there is that, like, badass nostalgia we see when he has the horns, he's red and black, he's got the dual lightsabers, makes him feel awesome. And the fact that we didn't get much out of him makes us talk about how much we loved him here. Though I do kind of disagree in the sense that, like, well, obviously it's all perspective, hindsight's 2020. I do feel like some of the weakness in the prequels is the fact that we didn't get a good central villain overarching the entire prequel, where we had that in the original trilogy. You know, when it was Darth Vader making the turn against Palpatine. We went from Darth Maul, who, in my opinion, was a fantastic apprentice villain, to Dooku and General Grievous, right? And you never...
Grievous sucks.
Right, and we just don't have that connection to a villain in the prequels the way we did in the original. So I do feel, it was always my opinion, to kind of differ from Banner here and Geiger, that I think it should have always been Darth Maul as the primary villain in the original, in the prequels. And had it end kind of like what they said it, how with Anakin fighting Maul, because he would have been that generation's Darth Vader, right? And that's what Anakin needed to accomplish to become the new bad guy, right? So I just think the prequels, whether it was Darth Maul or not, the prequels severely lacked a central villain that we could get our hate around. And Dooku, for me, there's a lot of issues with Dooku, but he was not a strong villain in the sense that Darth Maul was or could have been, in my opinion. So I think we should have seen Darth Maul survive the entire 3 films until the end.
Very well said. All right. Last one I just want to know before we move on to Protein Shake is, where does this movie rank in terms of your Star Wars movies? So I think for me, I have to put it behind, obviously, the original 3. I have to put it behind Rogue One. And I have to put it behind The Force Awakens, but I have it ahead of Solo and The Last Jedi. So for me, this is, and all the other prequels. So for me, this is my 6th favorite Star Wars movie, which again, may sound like it's ranked low, but like, look at the movies that are ahead of it. I mean, the original 3 Star Wars movies are like top 100 movies of all time. And I loved Rogue One. And The Force Awakens, to me, I just think is such a solid movie. And every time I go back and watch it, I'm like, dude, this movie is way better than people think. So for me, it's 6th. Banner, how about you? Where does Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, rank in the Star Wars canon?
The exact same spot. On any given day, though, you could convince me that I like Solo better because I had a lot of fucking fun in that movie. But today, it's the same as you. Tomorrow, it and Solo teeters right there between 6th and 7th. But again, like you said, that's no indictment on the movie, I don't think, because all the movies ahead of it are fucking fantastic and literally in cinema history.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to beat the original 3, so it's like we're starting, like 4th is the highest, and it probably could be ranked anyway. Geiger, how about you?
So I like Rogue One's better, Return of the Jedi's better, Empire Strikes Back's better. I think Revenge of the Sith is better. I like Revenge of the Sith. I think Rogue One's better. I think it's better than the original Star Wars, though. I don't like the original Star Wars as much. And I'll tell you why.
Wow.
What a controversy.
You're insane.
This is why, because everyone that talks to me about the original Star Wars, it's because they saw it in theaters in the 70s, how revolutionary it was. Well, I was born in 88, so by the time, it wasn't that revolutionary to me because, movies have been, that was like, 10 years ago? And the first story, honestly, I think Rogue One is better. Or, sorry, not Rogue One, but The Force Awakens is a better story than the original Star Wars. And it's basically the same story. So the original Star Wars, for me, I basically get through it so I can get to Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi.
Interesting. Cycling, how about you?
You're entitled to your opinion, but you're wrong. Yeah. So okay, it's hard for me to rank. I think I have two ways to rank this in my head because if I'm just putting on a Star Wars movie to not really like just as something in the background to enjoy and not think too much about, this is definitely in my top 3 or 4. Right, like, but only
it's so entertaining. It really is.
Entertaining. If I'm not trying to sit down and be a nerd and just like enjoy the actual Star Wars lore, then I will happily put this movie on over most. But in terms of if I accept this and I have to rank it as a story and as a movie itself, then I agree. I think it's around 6. It's better than The Last Jedi to me. It's better than Attack of the Clones is my least favorite. I think where I have the biggest battle is between Revenge of the Sith and Phantom Menace. The thing is, I think on its core, Revenge of the Sith is a better movie, but its flaws are so deep that it really upsets me because Revenge of the Sith should have been more epic. You know?
Do you favor Revenge of the Sith because it gave us so many great prequel memes?
It gives us so many. I mean, between the two, I feel like you get more prequel memes between Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. Fuck Attack of the Clones. You don't get much out of Attack of the Clones.
That's true. And Attack of the Clones, that's the one where I really feel the runtime. I'm like, my God, dude.
It's the longest one. Yeah.
Like when they get to Geonosis, I'm like, dude, can this thing fucking end?
No, I completely agree. So again, I'm going to always defend it in the sense of what am I wanting out of a movie at the end of the day? Entertainment. I'm wanting to be entertained. I want to shut my brain off for a while. And Phantom Menace fucking does that. And I don't have to, like, when I want to watch Empire, I'm in a very different mood for when I want to watch Empire Strikes Back. Of course, Empire Strikes Back is a better movie. That doesn't mean sometimes I always want to watch Empire. I'd much rather watch Phantom.
Right. If we're like 3 beers deep, it's not like, hey, let's throw on the morose Empire Strikes Back. Yeah. Matt, that is really loud.
Sorry.
Can we edit this out, Banner, where he's like walking through a haunted house?
I mean, I could, yeah.
We'll just fucking keep
I want there to be like a ghoul in the background.
Yeah, we'll do it live. All right, before we move on to Protein Shake, last thoughts on Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I'll just say this. The pod racing scene is fucking awesome, and I could do a whole Sebulba anthology movie. Cycling back to you.
Video game, the Phantom Menace, not Phantom Menace game, but the
pod racing game on N64.
Dude, that game is sick.
It's so sick, and not only it's so fucking hard. I mean, that game was ridiculous. I love it. All the different worlds, all the different characters you got that were never even in the movie. Man, I always take back that. That's one of my favorite games, too.
You have to upgrade your pod, like, perfectly if you want to be competitive.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard. Banner, last thoughts, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, this is just a really fun movie. Again, it's got that nostalgia factor for people our age, and I stand by my statement of I think in our minds it's better because it was the first Star Wars movie we saw on the big screen, which, I mean, it is what it is, but it's a great movie because of that. And I think anytime you have something that's that impactful on your life and your generation as the Phantom Menace was to us, we're always going to come out and fight for it. Very
well said. Geiger.
Jar Jar is and always will be the key to everything.
just in life. All right.
And by the way, really fast, if someone's on you guys are fucking stupid, Phantom Menace is a bad movie. We know that. Just to throw it out there, we know. What Phantom Menace.
I don't think it's The Godfather, but it's like, right. Dude, it's fucking fun.
I always get mad when people online say, "How can you actually like that movie?" Dude, get out of here. Stop.
Yeah, you're just if you don't think there's anything fun about this movie, then we just wouldn't get along at a party. That's just what That's fine. You can have your opinion, but it's not mine. All right. Next part of our show is our protein shake, where we go around and talk about what's in our cup, also known as what have we watched lately. Banner, let's go to you first. You have a very, very full one. I'm actually going to cut mine in half and do the other half on our next episode.
I actually surprisingly don't have too terribly much this week. We finished the second season of Barry with my wife. Absolutely loved it. Cannot wait for the next season.
Watch Barry.
Yeah. Cannot wait for the next season to come out. It was great. So that was awesome. On Amazon Prime, there's a show called The Good Omen. Pretty funny. The episodes are a little long. But basically, you have a angel and a demon that have lived on Earth the entire lifetime of Earth, and the Antichrist comes and is going to destroy the Earth, and they're trying to stop it because they actually like their life on Earth.
They're like friends, right?
Yeah, they're friends, like secretly, because obviously a demon and an angel can't be friends. But yeah, they're like secretly best friends, and so they've taken these precautions over the years, or so they think, to prevent the end of the world.
David Tennant is the demon, right? Who was the Purple Man from Jessica Jones.
Yeah,
season
Kilgrave in Jessica Jones. He was also Barty Crouch Jr. in Harry Potter 4. Yeah, so.
And he is one of the doctors in Doctor Who. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I don't know Doctor Who enough to be able to tell you who he is.
The premise for that looked really interesting because I like Martin Sheen too. He's just not in.
It's a good, like I said, it's a good movie. John Hamm is in it too. He plays Gabriel, which is kind of funny too. It's just, like I said, the episodes can get a little long. They're like 55 minutes.
How many episodes?
There's only 6, so you can get through it. But
so you can watch that in 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I watched it in a day.
God, you're nuts.
So then after I did that, the new Deadwood movie came out. Didn't watch that because I've never seen.
Oh.
Yeah.
First time ever someone's mentioned something on Protein Shake they didn't watch.
Yeah. Well, it popped up like, hey, you might want to watch this. So I was like, you know what? You're right. I need to watch the show first. So I'm chugging through the first season. Do what?
I didn't watch it though. So.
Guy, you sound like you're in like a fucking Dixie cup.
Yeah, I don't think your mic is on or something.
I live here.
I don't know.
Your audio sounded way better outside. I don't know if you made a change.
Yeah, I don't know.
Told me to go in.
No, like it sounded outside like you had a mic recording you, and now it sounds like your phone is like across the room.
Oh.
I don't know.
All right, sorry, Geiger, continue. Or sorry, Banner, continue.
Yeah, so I started watching the first season of that. I love it. I think it's awesome. Great Western. I know Thurman's a big fan of it. He told me I should watch it as well. So just chugging through that. Watched the first 2 Toy Story movies as well.
Heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, in preparation for the 4th coming out next week, I believe. So I'll watch the 3rd one next week in preparation for that. Also watch Wreck-It Ralph 2. Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet. Guys, it's underrated. It was actually really good.
I saw your daughter was digging it.
Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun. Again, I don't know why it didn't get more love when it came out. It was really, really well done.
Does Stan Lee have a cameo in it, or was that the first one that he was in?
I don't remember, honestly.
Okay.
If I'm going to be completely honest, I just didn't want to show you guys up. We actually watched both of them back to back, so I don't remember which one was which.
Yeah, don't embarrass us by saying that.
So, but yeah, Light Week. That I believe that's all that we watched.
Okay. Cycly, how about you?
So I'm going to just go down the top 10 box office movies that are released right now. Not that I've seen any of them, but if we're just announcing things that are. So my wife and I, we finished Chernobyl.
Ooh, I want to watch that.
You guys have not. I 100% recommend Chernobyl. As you probably see on the internet, it's #1 show ever on IMDb now. It's phenomenal, and especially even if you're not a history nerd, the accuracy of the show, the drama of the show will carry it. Even if you don't care about the subject matter, it is a human story, and it's actually so crazy what happened, and not just that, but what could have happened without some people who made sacrifices, who literally knew they were going to die by making the sacrifices. So honestly, it's only 5 episodes. They're all like an hour long, but start to finish, the acting and the writing is phenomenal. It's an incredible show. It's going to just reap all the awards, the Emmys next year. Well, I think Jeff and you and I can talk about this. The new Black Mirror came out. We can talk this more in depth maybe on a review show.
Yeah, we'll do a review of it.
3 new episodes of Black Mirror, so watch those. Always get excited when you see a Black Mirror coming up because they try different things that is a little unique compared to what else you see on TV.
And a lot of recognizable actors in this season of it, like for American audiences.
Oh yeah, it's definitely more American now. They're trying to. I think it is a lot more well known than it used to be, and so they're trying to capitalize on that. So, but yeah, other than that, rewatching a lot of stuff, so nothing too new, but I definitely recommend Chernobyl.
Awesome. Geiger.
Okay, you guys really need to watch this show. And I know we say this a lot, but our fans need to watch this show because if you guys are into it, Animal Kingdom is probably the most badass show I've watched in a really fucking long time. Not like Game of Thrones badass, but just like a fun show to have a beer to. So picture this. The plot of Point Break meets like the acting, maybe storytelling of Sons of Anarchy with a little bit of Fast and Furious Ocean's 11 heist in it.
Ooh,
and that
okay.
is fucking Animal Kingdom. So this one lady who's actually in Ocean's 13, she's the one that Matt Damon tries to seduce. So she is, she's like older. She's probably around 60, and she has 4 sons. And basically she just kind of brings them up to figure out how to do heists and shit. And it's set in LA, California, Banner. So they drink beer, they surf, they just chill by the pool, do drugs, and then they just scout out jobs on try to how to fucking steal money. And that's how they live. And she had a daughter, but she died of a drug overdose. So she takes in her son. And he's a really good kid, really good in school. He's like a high schooler, but he starts to get in with the family and starts doing heist movie or heist and fucking shit like that. I just
It's kind of told through his perspective, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if he'd be the main character or she would be the girl from Ocean's 13, but I don't really know any of the actors and anything else. I've seen them.
Scott Speedman is in it, who
he's in
The Strangers. He's the Liv Tyler's fiance, or
he's fucking great in this too. But it's just really fun, dude, because it just makes me want to go by the pool. It makes me want to drink beer. It makes me want to surf. One guy like fucking owns a bar. Like they do a lot of coke.
Does it make you want to rob a bank?
Yeah, it makes me want to, like, for us, instead of doing a podcast, we just come up with jobs where we can, like, rob people's money and shit, and that's how we make it. It's a fantastic show, though. It's really good. I just finished season 2. Season 1 is just, you think, okay, this is a pretty good bro show. Season 2 gets turned up. Like, the story arcs, and it's really fucking good. And the acting's a lot better, too, in season 2.
Geiger, if you want to rob a bank, I can give you my blueprints. If you want, and go over them here later.
It's on
You have just generic blueprints of any bank?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're all built the same. I mean, a bank is a bank is a bank.
Looks like we have
it's on
4
TNT
seasons
also,
currently.
but there's like kind of nudity in it and stuff, which I don't get. I haven't watched it on cable yet. I've just watched it, like the actual season part that came out. But
once you've made the sale, quit selling.
Yeah, you guys need to watch it because I want to talk about it with one of you. It's fucking fantastic, though.
I'm definitely interested.
Give me 20 minutes, I'll be caught up.
I was like, man, it sounds
I'll
like
probably
Bear
watch
would
the
be
whole
watching.
fucking show. What else, Geiger?
That's really all I want to talk about. I mean, if you want to double team Rocket Man.
Yeah, let's do that, because then also Cycly lied, because there's a movie he and I both watched that we'll talk about in a second for my protein shake.
I would never. How dare you?
I'll start. Rocket Man, the Elton John biopic starring Taron Egerton, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Banner and Mine's boy Jamie Bell. So I saw this. I have AMC A-list, so I'm going to be seeing a lot of movies this summer because I get 3 a week. And this was one of those, like, it's always an interesting crowd when you go like a Tuesday during the day to a movie. Like, who the fuck's going to be in there? I was one of 5 people in the theater, which is fine. Like, this movie's been out for a while, and it's not like a huge, like, mainstream summer blockbuster. But I really enjoyed Rocket Man. I know the biopic is, like, kind of in now. I will say this. The one thing I realized in it, unlike Queen, so in Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen has a lot of bangers. Like, I don't think they're better musicians than Elton John, but like as far as pushing a narrative along, like they got shit that you're like, oh yeah, this song goes hard. Elton John doesn't have that type of music, so every time one of his songs was played in the movie, it was tethered to like a really strong emotional beat in his life. And there were a lot there for them to play off of. They ran a little bit short in like the second act. And I think outside of Egerton, Jamie Bell was the best. Bryce Dallas Howard's performance as his mother was a little weak for me, but this was just a really good movie. Movie that I'm glad I saw. Runtime was perfect. And Elton John, Matt, I know you'll probably say something about this, but he executive produced the movie, which sometimes you're like, all right, what are we going to, is Elton John going to look like a fucking Mother Teresa in the film? And you could tell that Elton insisted that they show his warts and his character flaws as a person. Like, he is far from a perfect human being in this film. And I have to give Elton John my respect for allowing himself to be portrayed in that way in this movie that basically makes him look like a really bad person for like 75% of the film. But I think Edgerton will get some buzz. Obviously, the Oscars love biopics. He'll get some buzz for Best Actor. What'd you think, Matt?
I absolutely loved it. I think it wasn't as good as The Dirt. I fucking love The Dirt, Motley Crue Netflix one. Way better than Bohemian Rhapsody, though, because I felt like the story I was watching was true. We'll get to another part. But as I said, Bohemian Rhapsody, basically the person that died, they made them look good. All the people that are alive, they made them look like fucking Mother Teresa. Elton John showed the good and the bad and the ugly of his career. I also loved how artistically it was like a musical. But it was a musical in the right spots where...
Right, like Across the Universe tried to do this, and I think it failed miserably.
It went way
worked.
too trippy, but this was actually kind of showing how they wrote some of the songs. If you don't know, Elton John didn't write any of the songs. Barry was one of his friends, would write the lyrics, and Elton John would come up with the music to it, which, you know, depending on musically what you're into, is just as or maybe even more important, the music behind the lyrics. But it was a very cool how they showed how they came up with the songs, how he would write it. Your Song is a perfect example of this when he was living with Elton John and his mom, and he wrote Your Song, and Elton just woke up, got a morning coffee, and started playing piano to it and singing it, and the whole house just stopped and looked like, Jesus Christ, that's a great song. That was never done in Bohemian Rhapsody except for Brian May's Douchebag, where he stomps twice and claps, which I think is the worst fucking rock song ever made. Anyway, I digress. This movie was fucking perfectly done. The musical at the very first, I kind of crossed my arms. I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a chance. But then after a while, I'm like, I kind of liked how they basically showed that his music is a different point in his life. And actually, the way the music came out historically was when his albums were released. Since I'm Still Standing, the last song that they did was his, like, the last album that he did that they created. I wish he would have went into Lion King. But
he was sober then, so it's like, all right, well, what?
Yeah, or when Princess Diana died, he sung at her funeral. I wish they would have done that scene too.
Yeah.
But other than that, great movie.
Also, Elton John's dad, I don't know if he's alive, but if he's listening, fuck you.
Dick.
You're an asshole. Another thing that I watched, again, AMC A-List, it's pretty fucking cool. I'll talk about it more on a different episode, but John Wick 3, Parabellum. My God, this movie is fucking fun. Check out our Letterboxd review. Basically, John Wick somehow ups the kill count. Like, you didn't think there was anyone left in New York City for him to kill. He's like, I found some more guys, and he fucking kills all of them. Halle Berry's great in this. They just continue the world of John Wick and the Continental Hotel is so fucking interesting to me. And Banner and I have talked about this on previous pods, but they continue to expand it without it feeling like it doesn't make sense anymore, or like it's just hit its breaking point or its oversaturation. And so if you're a fan of the franchise, like, this is a must-see. Go see it in a theater, be kind of drunk with your friends, and just be high-fiving every time he takes someone else's knife and stabs them with it. Also, he kills Boban Bogdanovic from the Philadelphia 76ers in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. He has the 7'7" guy has a cameo, and he fights John Wick in a fucking library. And it's funny because they're trying to murder each other in the library, but they're also still trying to be very respectful of the people who are reading in the library and like keeping the noise down, which I thought was really funny. They're like, we're not animals, Jesus. All right, and then the last thing I watched, Cycle, you need to come clean, because you recommended I watch this movie, and that is The Perfection on Netflix.
I forgot about that.
Which stars Allison Williams, who is the psycho white chick from Get Out.
I wish I hadn't. Why did you remind me?
Now, Cycle, tell the people the pitch you gave me as to why I should watch this movie.
I don't know. I was kind of drunk. I think I said, I need someone to experience what I just saw, because I don't know what I just saw.
I don't know what he's like. I don't know what the fuck this is. He goes, don't read anything about it. Just go to Netflix and watch it. And I'm texting him as I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
It's literally like, the interesting thing, without revealing too much, because that's how I recommend it, guys. Like, you know how Netflix is an autoplay preview? Don't even watch that. If you're in the mood for just an hour and a half, like, I don't know. You can call it unique creative writing, whatever, but if you're kind of bored, don't read anything about it. It literally felt like 4 different movies at a time.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie with more twists.
It's literally a twist on twist.
Every 15 minutes, there's
At
like
one
a.
point, you're like, oh, they're going in this direction. Oh, no, they're going in this direction.
I'll
And
say
then
this.
there's still the ending scene is just
The
one of
ending
most
blows my
ridiculous.
fucking mind. I don't even know what.
I will say this, Jeff. I think you agreed a little bit that it was fucking entertaining. An hour and a half. I was never like, oh my god, please end. I was like, I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know what the hell this is, but hey, it's
Whether you like it
it's
or not, there's a lot of what the fuck moments, and it will hold your attention. Yeah, and the ending, like obviously we don't want to spoil anything, but the ending is so. I don't even know. I want to say ridiculous, but after having seen the whole movie, it kind of fits perfectly.
Don't eat while you watch it. There's some scenes.
Yeah, I made that mistake. I was like eating
So
pasta, and I was like, well, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
All right, the last part of our show, but before we get there, Banner, did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Do you even lift?
Oh,
Bruh?
yes.
Bruh?
And that
Do you lift, bruh?
is our Do You Even Lift Bruh segment of the show where it's our question and answer segment where we go around the internet.
Is that your daughter?
Or a cat, or both. And we dig up questions that we want to talk about. Today's question comes to us from Daniel Siebner at Dan Siebner NYC. This is a great one. And he asks, if you could do away with one of these Hollywood go-to ideas forever, which would it be and why? And he gives us 4. Reboots, sequels, prequels, or shared universes. So we have to get rid of reboots, sequels, prequels, or shared universes, and why. Cycly, let's go to you first.
This is really tough. I want to air and go sequels. It's kind of tough.
Wow.
Because sequels, I always feel like you have this anticipation, this level of excitement getting built up. And very rarely do you get a sequel that is up to par. Now, there are a couple sequels out there that have been better. We already talked about Empire earlier. We can talk about Godfather Part 2. But then you can talk about just some of the others that do sequels, and they're just all they are rehashes.
Like any comedy.
If they're comedies, they're the same joke with the same storyline over and over. Prequels it's close, but at least sometimes I feel like a prequel has a little more demand because the idea is already there and they're forming it in the prequel. Where the sequel is they're kind of like, whoa, we want to capitalize on this money. Let's do another one, not because we have a good story to tell, but because we can make $100 million off of it. So it's a tough one, but out of those 4, I think I'd go sequel.
Yeah, if you had to ask me which one is frequently the most disappointing, it's probably sequels, but I don't know, maybe Matt, how about you? What would you get rid of? Please don't say shared universes because I love those.
No, it's reboots. And Banner, you can talk to this. Like, there's a huge rumor that they're going to reboot the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Oh, that's fucking happening.
Just make a good pirate movie. Why do you have to reboot it?
Can't do that.
I mean, they do this with a lot of things. Even the Halloween kind of soft reboot that I dug. I'm like, why doesn't this generation just make a good a different Halloween person instead of Michael Myers? Make something different. Make something unique. I seriously think moviegoers are starving for something fresh, and they're not getting it all. There's like, let's just reboot it. It'll be pretty much the same, but it'll be different actors and kind of different stories. I'm like, just make a different pirate movie. Make a Treasure Island movie or something. We haven't seen that. I mean, I guess that would be kind of technically a reboot.
I think that's a reboot. Start yourself into a corner there.
I'm just saying that
fuck you.
make a different pirate movie. Back in the 60s, they didn't just reboot every cowboy movie. John Wayne. I mean, even though he kind of played the same character, the stories were different. They were different fucking movies. Just quit rebooting everything. Just come up with new, fresh ideas.
Well, I think Cycly and I, if you listen to our Us review, and it's kind of the same thing about The Perfection, at least that shit is original. Say what you want.
I will always credit.
Yeah, that's our thing with Jordan Peele. I maybe not understand half of the shit that he puts in his movies, but at least it's different, and it's not like the same shit.
I will always give it credit to someone trying something new. Just because it doesn't work doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to be, watched or something like that. Like, good for them.
Yeah. All right, Banner, I'm really interested to see how you answer this question. Sequels, prequels, reboots, or shared universes?
I love shared universes. Like,
I love
give
them
me
too.
more of those. Sequels, I'm fine with them capitalizing on a good movie. Yeah, it doesn't hit all the time. In fact, most of the time it probably doesn't, but I'm fine with that. The reboots or the soft reboots that they've been doing here recently, again, I'm fine with. I don't like prequels. I say that, and
I typically don't either.
literally our entire episode today was around a prequel movie.
I felt like I could.
and I just talked about how much I
We're
love
so
that.
dumb.
But
We
like
keep walking ourselves.
in general though, I don't like prequels. I think that it's the cop out way of making a sequel. They're like, "Oh, we ended this and we don't really know where to go, and so let's show people where they started from." I don't like that. Again, I enjoyed Solo, but the whole allure of Han Solo it was a mystery. We didn't know if what he was saying was bullshit or where he came from. I think Indiana Jones is that same
Kessel
way.
Run and all that shit is cooler, I think.
Yeah.
Have in our heads.
I would rather leave it all, like, kind of the mystery and the myth to all these things in our head. You don't have to show me. Like, let me figure it out for myself. Let me have that vision in my head of what I imagine it to be. And give me something to argue with my friends about at the fucking bar.
That's really the goal. All right, I don't know how I want to answer this question because I originally said prequels, but what does this count as? These like soft reboots that keep happening, like the fucking where like it basically it's the sequel that like selectively chooses which sequels it wants to count, like the Terminator and Halloween.
Yeah.
And Jurassic World.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So those are what I want to stop. Is that a reboot? I guess we'll call it I don't know. Like, I know the new Halloween was a good movie. It just really fucking annoys me that, like, these creative people have to, or have the carte blanche to say, like, these movies don't count. Because they happened, man. They were made. And it's a crazy concept to me that, like, the first person pitched this to a studio. And he was like, yeah, we're going to ignore 4, 5, and 6. He's like, what? Okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's make that movie. So the soft reboot I would like to get rid of. And again, I'm kind of talking out of my ass because on the pod, I didn't see it, but Banner and Geiger loved the new Halloween. Check out our review of that. But this Terminator one looks like a fucking colossal train wreck just from the trailer. And that's where, like, we've hit, I guess, Point Break to tie it all back. Because if these now are shitty movies and we're disregarding sequels that happened, it's just illegal. Can't be done. All right, that will do it for episode 78 of the Bro 4 Squad podcast. Before we let the people go, last thoughts. Cycly, what do you want to leave them with?
Yeah.
Nice. Very well said. Beautiful. Look, Banner. No one has anything.
Go buy a 6-pack and watch season 1 of Animal Kingdom. You'll not be disappointed.
There we go. That's our message.
Let's do our Point Break movie commentary that we had to take down because YouTube is being a douche. We'll probably put back up, and you liked it. You'll love Animal Kingdom.
Man, I really wanted everyone to go around the horn just going,
All right, for our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycly, the mad scientist, Brian Banner, and our enforcer in the paint, Matt Geiger, I've been the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro 4 Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Follow us on Twitter at Bro4Squad. Check out all of our reviews on Letterboxd, Bro Force Squad. Type in those 3 words. You'll find them. Type in those same 3 words on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, and subscribe to us there and check out everything that we do on our website, bro4squad.com. Till next time, we'll see you on Naboo. I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. Yeah, seriously, shut the fuck up, you idiot.